The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
I'm used to muting.
Testing, testing.
Okay, so here we go. So hello and welcome to the SEBB Dependent Verification webinar. My name is Jamie. I have Amanda here with me today who will be assisting with this webinar training. We are trainers with the Outreach and Training Unit. I myself will be covering eligible dependents and dependent verification, and Amanda will be taking on the second portion that is really involved with SEBB My Account. We are seeing quite a few familiar names, so welcome all of you. Good to see you here. So here are some upcoming events, just some reminders for you. October 1st is the first day of SEBB First Annual Open Enrollment. At this point, employees will be able to log into SEBB My Account and select their coverage elections. They'll be able to add dependents and upload dependent verification documents starting 12 a.m. on October 1st. November 15th is the last day of the SEBB First Annual Open Enrollment period. All dependent verification documents must be submitted no later than 11:59 p.m. on the 15th of November. And December 13th is the preferred completion date for all open enrollment dependent verification, meaning all documentation that has been submitted, the plan is to have that verified by December 13th so that subscribers and dependents are receiving their benefit cards by January. So we do have some objectives for this training. Our plan is for participants to have a solid understanding of dependent eligibility and required forms and dependent verification for the SEBB program. We also want to ensure that you understand how to process dependent verification in SEBB My Account and that you know where to access additional resources and support. So when is SEBB First Annual Open Enrollment? Those of you who are familiar with training know that we would wait for you to answer this, but I can't hear you, so I'll go ahead and give you the answer. October 1st through November 15th of 2019. All right, let's get started. So this section is focusing on eligible dependents and dependent verification. We'll also cover who will be verifying those dependents for this period, as well as after first annual open enrollment, and we'll go a little bit more in depth on what documentation can be provided. Additional information on this section can be found in WAC 182, 31, 140, and in SEBB Policy 31-1. So who are eligible dependents? We have subscribers who are eligible for SEBB benefits. They will likely want to add dependents. So who can they add? Well, legal spouse, Washington State Registered Domestic Partners, or substantially equivalent legal unions from other jurisdictions, and we'll talk about who those are and who will verify those individuals later on. Children up to the age of 26, so we're talking about a biological child, a stepchild, legally adopted children, and children in anticipation of adoption. Extended dependents and disabled dependents. With extended dependents, we're talking about a subscriber or a spouse having a legal custody or guardianship over a child, such as a grandchild, a niece, a nephew. They would have to have that court documentation showing that legal responsibility. And then disabled dependents. Those are children who are age 26 or older, whose disability occurred before the age of 26. Now, during first annual open enrollment, the SEBB program will complete dependent verification for all of these individuals. That is October 1st through November 15th. Now, starting November 16th, SEBB organizations will be required to verify legal spouses, Washington State Registered Domestic Partnerships, and children up to the age of 26. All other eligible dependents will be verified by the SEBB program. In order to enroll a dependent in SEBB medical coverage, the subscriber has to also be enrolled in SEBB medical. They cannot waive and then add dependents. They also must enroll in the same health plan coverage, but keep in mind that they may see different providers. In order to enroll a dependent in dental or vision, the subscriber can go ahead and do that with no additional cost to add those dependents, but they still have to provide dependent verification. Also, the dependents have to be enrolled in the same health plan coverage as the subscriber, but again, they may see different providers. Also, we have a note here at the bottom, dependents do not have to be enrolled in medical in order to be enrolled in vision or dental. Now, if a subscriber would like to enroll a dependent, they'll need to submit dependent verification and any required forms for that dependent. The deadline for first annual open enrollment is no later than November 15th. That's 11:59, November 15th, regardless of whether they are handing you that dependent verification or they're uploading it into SEBB My account, which we'll talk more on here in a bit. Now moving forward, October 16th or later, any newly eligible employee will have a 31-day window to enroll in their coverage and submit dependent verification documents for any eligible dependents that they would like to add to their coverage. They have that 31-day window. All documentation is due no later than that 31-day window. Keep in mind that if you know that an employee has a deadline or perhaps they've submitted partial dependent verification, things like that, and you've noticed, you may want to reach out to that employee and say, hey, your DV is not complete or we haven't received anything from you. Remember, your dependents are not going to be enrolled if you don't supply that dependent verification. If a school employee does fail to submit dependent verification within the given timeline, they'll be unable to enroll their dependents until either the next annual open enrollment period. Remember that enrolling during that time makes benefits effective for that dependent January 1st, or if a special open enrollment event occurs that allows them to add that dependent. Here is one exception for those who are currently enrolled in PEB benefits. During the first annual open enrollment period, no dependent verification is going to be required for any school employees who have a dependent that is currently or already been verified by the PEB program or certified by the PEB program, as long as they're currently enrolled in those benefits. So we're talking about a currently verified spouse or state registered domestic partner or children, or currently verified or certified extended dependent and disabled dependent. Keep in mind that while that information will be transferred over to the SEBB program, subscribers still have to log into their SEBB My account, and they still need to elect coverages, select their medical plans, their other health plans, and decide who they want covered and what. So let's take a look at dependent verification documents that may be submitted in order to verify those eligible dependents. First, we'll talk about dependent verification for a legal spouse. So some documents that could be provided are most recent year's federal tax return. So we're looking for the 2018 tax return. If you receive anything else, it's not going to be valid. So a 2011 form, 2015, that sort of thing, we would then have to deny that document. They can redact their financial information. We're really just looking for the subscriber and spouse's names on that document. If any other information is also supplied, like a social security number, we would want to make sure that that information matches what we can see in SEBB My account. Now, if the subscriber doesn't have the most recent year's federal tax return, they could supply a marriage certificate instead. If they do supply a marriage certificate, they'll have to also provide proof of common residence or proof of financial interdependency. And we'll take a look at some of those examples here in just a couple of slides. Now, if they are not submitting a tax return or a marriage certificate with that other proof, they could provide the Defense Enrollment Eligibility Reporting System registration or their DEERS ID cards. They would want to scan both sides of those cards or provide that registration document. Or they could also submit a valid J1 or J2 visa issued by the US government. What we're really looking for here is a connection between the eligible subscriber, the eligible employee, and that spouse. We want to make a connection that they are currently in a legal union, making that spouse eligible for SEBB benefits as a dependent. To verify a state-registered domestic partner, subscribers must supply the Washington State Certificate or Card of State-Registered Domestic Partnership, along with proof of common residence or proof of financial interdependency. And again, we're looking for information that connects that subscriber to that domestic partner. And in this case, we are specifically stating Washington State Registered Domestic Partnerships. For those out-of-state legal unions and domestic partnerships, the SEBB program will review and determine if that union is substantially equivalent, but documentation must be provided for them. So we're looking for a certificate or a card of legal union or state-registered domestic partnership from that other state, and they'll also have to supply proof of common residence or proof of financial interdependency. And again, the SEBB program will verify or certify these dependents. So let's say that we have a subscriber who's adding a domestic partner from another state. Rather than go into SEBB My account and upload that documentation, the subscriber will need to supply that documentation to you, the benefits administrator. You would then scan that documentation into the Fuse system. So you would have a Fuse message, attach that document, and send over a detailed message to the Outreach and Training Unit. We can then send that documentation to our legal team, who will determine whether or not it is a substantially equivalent legal union. And you can find more information on that topic or on the substantially equivalent topic in the RCW that's listed on this screen. Some examples of proof of common residence or proof of financial interdependency are mortgage statement, lease agreement, 2 separate pieces of mail if needed, one for the subscriber and one for the spouse. They both must show the same address, so maybe they don't have one piece of mail that has both names on it. They could supply those 2 separate pieces with the same address. They could supply a utility bill, property tax statement, bank statement, voided check, deposit slip, or a car insurance statement. So again, what we're looking for is that the information on those documents matches the information in SEBB My account. And in this case, we would like for the subscriber and spouse or state registered domestic partner to have the same address. Keep in mind that anything that has financial information included, that financial information may be redacted. For dependent verification for children up to the age of 26, a most recent year's federal tax return, so 2018 federal tax return, could be supplied. Of course, it's going to have the subscriber's name or the spouse's name on that document along with the child. And if their social security numbers are visible, we'll want to compare that information to what's in SEBB My account as well. If they don't have their child on their tax return, they could submit a birth certificate. If they don't have that, they can submit the hospital certificate with the child's footprints. Other documents that could be submitted instead are court-ordered parenting plan, their DEERS registration, a national medical support notice, or a valid J-2 visa issued by the U.S. government. They don't have, just as a reminder, they don't have to submit all of these documents to verify their dependents. It's one or the other, with the exception of things that require that proof of common residence and proof of financial interdependency. For children in anticipation of adoption, which is a child for whom the subscriber has assumed a legal obligation for total or partial support in anticipation of adoption. So to verify these children, we would need that certificate or decree of adoption. It's going to need to show the name of the subscriber or the subscriber's spouse as the parent, along with the child's name and an adoption approved or effective date. For stepchildren, to verify, we will need to verify the subscriber and the spouse's relationship. So we'll need some kind of documentation from that list in order to verify the legal spouse or the state registered domestic partner. And we will also have to verify the child. So we'll have to make that connection between the spouse and the child. And this is regardless of whether or not that spouse is being enrolled in coverage. So just to reiterate, we have to connect the subscriber to the spouse and connect the child to the spouse as well. Dependent verification for extended dependents includes the Extended Dependent Certification Form, which will be found on the SEBB employee website under Forms and Publications. It may be out there now, but at minimum, it will be available by October 1st. They'll also have to supply a court order. That court order is going to serve as the dependent verification, and the court order, of course, will need to have information that connects that subscriber to that child, or connects a subscriber's spouse to that child. So it'll have to have names on there, dates. Something else to consider is the date in which that legal guardianship ends. So in this case, if somebody were to submit a court order and it says that the subscriber has a legal guardianship over the child until they turn 18 years of age, know that that eligibility as a dependent will end when they become 18 years of age, because that is the length of time in which the court order states that that guardianship, or that's the length that the guardianship will last. Now for extended dependents, we do want subscribers to upload all of these, the forms and the dependent verification, into SEBB My account. And keep in mind that the SEBB program will be verifying or certifying these dependents, both during first annual open enrollment and thereafter. For disabled dependents, so these are dependents who are age 26 or older. The certification of a child with a disability form is required, and dependent verification will be required as well. So that form will be available no later than October 1st on the SEBB website under Forms and Publications. And keep in mind that that form is going to have to prove that the disability renders the child incapable of self-sustaining employment, and that they are dependent upon the subscriber for support, and that the disability occurred before the age of 26. For the dependent verification, we would select something from the list of dependent verification that is required to verify a child. So the most recent year's federal tax return, birth certificate or that hospital certificate would suffice, along with the other documentation that can be provided for children. Now, keep in mind, if somebody has a child who is under the age of 26 who is disabled, it would be best for them to enter them as a child, not a disabled child, in SEBB My account. If you notice that a child has been entered with a birth date that shows they are under age 26 in SEBB My account, you will be able, as a BA, to go in and make that adjustment for the employee. But know that the SEBB program will not be verifying or certifying disabled dependents under the age of 26 because a certification is not required. So again, disabled dependents under the age of 26, they can just be verified as a child. They don't have to go through the certification process. Now, to provide that dependent verification, the employee will want to submit the dependent verification, so the federal tax return, birth certificate, and such, to SEBB My account. But the certification of a child with a disability form will have to be sent to the address that's provided on the form. It will either end up being sent to the employee or subscriber's health plan, or it will come straight to the SEBB program, and that will depend on what they're enrolling that dependent in. So here's another exception just for first annual open enrollment, and that is that no initial certification is required for school employees who are currently enrolled in your suborganization's group health plan if they have a certified disabled dependent, of course, who's age 26 plus on or before December 31st, who's already been certified. So they are currently enrolled and they have already been certified. For these dependents, you as the benefits administrators are authorized to attest to that dependent child's disability status. So what you would do is you would be able to visually verify documents from your current health plan or from that subscriber's current health plan showing that certification or an existing enrollment record. Now you'll be able to submit that attestation in SEBB My account no later than December 31st of 2019. What this does is it allows the subscriber to not have to go through the certification process for first annual open enrollment, but they will have to recertify in plan year 2020. The SEBB program will contact the subscriber and let them know when it's time to recertify their dependent. And Amanda will show you what this is going to look like in SEBB My account later on. Now, if you intend to attest for a disabled dependent's disability status or certified status, but you do not, or you are not able to do that in time, you will want to send an email to the email provided on the screen. It's ddinfo@hca.wa.gov, and the SEBB program will be in touch with you to process that request. Foreign documentation. So this is a question that we've had quite commonly. Know that in policy 31-1, it is listed that all documents must be submitted in English. Any documents in a foreign language must be translated by a professional translator and certified with a notary public seal. Keep in mind that if anybody is submitting dependent verification documents to you in person, or they're submitting them through SEBB My account, those will need to be denied because they will have to be translated. All right, so a quick check-in for you guys. Who will complete dependent verification for first annual open enrollment? Well, again, I can't hear you, so I'll go ahead and give you the answer. I'm going to take it easy on you guys. So the SEBB program will complete all verification for any dependent verification documents that are uploaded to SEBB My account from October 1st through November 15th of 2019. When must SEBB organizations begin verifying dependents in SEBB My account? Well, SEBB organizations are required to begin verifying dependents starting November 16th of 2019, so the day after first annual open enrollment. And just a reminder here, which eligible dependents will SEBB organizations be required to verify starting November 16th? That's a legal spouse, Washington State registered domestic partners, and children up to the age of 26. And last one for you. Common question that we've received: may BAs complete dependent verification during first annual open enrollment if they choose to? The answer is absolutely. You may complete dependent verification in SEBB My account during first annual open enrollment, but you're not required to until November 16th. Know that when the subscribers begin logging in to SEBB My account and uploading dependent verification, you will have access to see that dependent verification for legal spouses, Washington State Registered Domestic Partners, and children up to the age of 26. And you can go in and actually verify them if you choose to, but you do not have to. You will be able to see when there are disabled dependents and extended dependents that are pending, and Amanda will show you more on that later on. But again, you're not required to verify those, and you will not be able to either. All right, so when might you deny dependent verification? Let's take a look at that. So if the dependent verification is incomplete, so all of the required documents haven't been provided, say somebody submits a marriage certificate for their spouse, but they do not provide proof of common residence or proof of financial interdependence, that might be considered incomplete. They have to supply both of those documents if they supply that marriage certificate. If it's illegible, so you can't read the document, or they've not submitted it in English, as is required by that policy we stated earlier. If no documentation is provided by the deadline, or if the documentation that is provided is invalid, so it has incorrect or misspelled information. Perhaps you have a subscriber whose name is George, but it says Jeff on the document. We would need to deny that as an invalid document. The information needs to match what is input into SEBB My account. If the document appears to be fraudulent, you can deny that document. If the relationship does not match the type of DV submitted, so perhaps they're adding a dependent child and they put a marriage certificate in there, that would be invalid. Or if the document has not been translated and certified, again, it would be invalid. All right, so just a little refresher here. For domestic partnerships from other states or those legal unions, extended dependents and disabled dependents, you as benefits administrators will not actually be able to verify these individuals in SEBB My account. You'll be able to see that documentation has been submitted for them or that they are pending verification. You'll also be able to see once they're approved or denied, but you will not actually be able to physically verify these. The SEBB program will verify or certify these dependents from October 1st for the foreseeable future unless something changes. All right, let's take a quick look at some resources. There are website resources available that house information on eligible dependents and dependent verification documentation that can be provided, as well as those certification forms for extended and disabled dependents. And those would be located on the SEBB website. This is the main website for yourselves as employees, of course, and for your employees. There are two websites currently out there for benefits administrators only, and that is the SEBB BA Preparing for First Annual Open Enrollment website that houses information specifically for first annual open enrollment. But looking forward, your main resource will be the SEBB BA website as listed on the bottom here that has the /SEBB benefits admins link. There's also additional information in the Washington Administrative Code. So we have the following WACs listed here. There's one for when must an employee complete required forms, who are eligible dependents, and when may subscribers enroll or remove those eligible dependents. There are also numerous policies regarding verifying dependents and dependent eligibility. So we have Policy 31-1, verifying dependent eligibility before enrollment. Policy 33-1, verifying legal union's residency status. And then two additional regarding certifications. All right, let's talk a bit about contact information. What if you have questions? you'll want to contact Outreach and Training if you have questions or you require guidance. So if you're not sure about the validity of a document, maybe something looks forged or you're not quite sure, or you want to get a second pair of eyes on it, you can send a message, a detailed message through Fuse. Remember, it is a secure system. So you'll want to send the subscriber and the dependent's names and information, as much as you have, along with a detailed message asking for assistance. And then our Outreach and Training team will be able to go into SEBB BA account and review that documentation and provide you with some guidance on that. Also, if you have questions about whether or not the documentation submitted may be an acceptable form of dependent verification, perhaps it's not on the list of dependent verification, but it has all of the information required, that's not something that you would want to just approve. You would want to send that over to the healthcare authority through that Fuse system so they could take a look at it and provide you with an answer on whether or not it can be acceptable. Also, if you were to receive something like a certificate or a card of registered domestic partnerships from another state, any state other than Washington, you will want to send that to the Outreach and Training unit via the Fuse system. So upload that, attach it as a document on there with a detailed message so that we can get that over to our legal team to determine whether or not it's substantially equivalent. Know that it is possible that you could have subscribers who add their domestic partners or registered in other state domestic partners into SEBB BA account with the selections for state registered domestic partnerships, and then they upload those out-of-state documents. If you see that, you'll want to send a message to Fuse. You will not want to verify those. Remember, our legal team needs to take a look at those first. All right, so here is the contact information for Outreach and Training. This is that Fuse messaging system that I mentioned a couple of times. Many of you are likely already familiar with it. The web link is housed on the third or second bullet down, along with the phone number. So know that during annual open enrollment, we do have the SEBB open enrollment period and PEB, and that the messaging system and phone lines can be pretty busy. So do be patient. If you are sending in a message via Fuse and you want to check on the status of that and you reopen it and send a new message, you're going to be put at the back of the queue. So if you have new questions, open a new Fuse message. Or with emergencies, you can go ahead and give us a call. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pass you guys over to Miss Amanda. Thank you all so much.
Hello, everybody. Let's talk a bit about SEBB BA account and processing that dependent verification. So what about the school employee who actually brings you dependent verification into your office? You can visually verify that, and you'll want to complete that verification in SEBB BA account. If you do verify the document, you do not need to upload it into SEBB BA account. If you visually looked at it and it meets the criteria in which Jamie laid out for us, you can just go ahead and select verify. We'll show you those reasons here in just a moment. But if you do decide to go ahead and upload the document, which you don't need to do, but if you did, it will automatically be deleted from SEBB BA account after about 48 hours after it's verified. Now, if you look at the document and it's not acceptable, and you are going to deny the document, it will need to be uploaded into SEBB BA account. That's because it will remain in this system for 180 days. So in the case that the employee wants to appeal that decision, the document will be able to be found by the SEBB program. So we're only needing to upload documents into SEBB BA account as the benefit administrators if we are denying. So here's what it looks like when we go into SEBB BA account and we have an employee who hasn't submitted documentation in SMA, but they brought it to you. So we go to our dependent verification tile and we open up that school employee, the subscriber. This is what we will see. It automatically is in pending status. If we choose to verify, we'll select the verify button. And here's our reason codes: verified, verified exempt, verified not Washington registration, and verified Washington registration. We will go through a couple examples in SEBB My Account here in just a moment. So when we select that verification status from the drop-down menu, we'll look at verified. That means the employee submitted the valid documents. Dependent is verified. They will be enrolled in coverage. Verified exempt is where one of the partners is at least age 62 or older. That's state registered domestic partnership. And verified not Washington registration, that will be used for verifying any other state equivalents of state registered domestic partnership. Now keep in mind, you have to submit those documents via FUSE and have our legal team at the SEBB program review those and provide a decision. At that point is when we will use that verified not Washington registration status. So what about, in this case, Mr. Toby brings us a document that's not valid. We select the Deny button. Our deny status reasons are denied, illegible, incomplete, invalid, and no DV document provided. So here's some explanation on those denied status. Denied is the dependent is not an eligible dependent based on the WAC. We have illegible, you're not able to read that document. Maybe it's really poor quality. They took a picture with their cell phone and it's really blurry, or it wasn't provided in English. You also have incomplete, so all the required documents were not submitted. Maybe they only submitted a marriage certificate and didn't provide that extra proof of common residence or financial interdependency. There's invalid, the document is not a valid dependent verification, or there's no DV document provided. So they did not provide the document, or they provided it after their eligibility window. So this is just a reminder, Jamie mentioned this earlier, about those disabled dependents. If they're currently enrolled in your SEBB organization's group health plan and have been certified, we can go ahead and attest for them. Here's what that looks like. We'll see that the employee also has to have dependent verification documents. In this example, there is a tax return on this for this dependent. But if that disabled dependent meets the criteria in which they have been certified through your current SEBB organization group health plan, and you can say, as this says, by checking this box, I declare that the foregoing is true and correct, and that the dependent I am attesting for is in fact currently certified as a disabled dependent and enrolled in a medical plan for the 2019 plan year. We can select temporary extended, and we can bridge them into the SEBB program for coverage beginning January 1st, 2020, and they can do their certification in plan year 2020. So we would go ahead and select temporary extended and submit the changes. Again, if you have failed to submit that attestation in a timely manner, go ahead and send an email to the email provided on your screen, and the SEBB program will process those accordingly. All right, so we are going to move into SEBB My Account. Please bear with me for just a moment as I move around on the screen and get signed in. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this fun process of signing into SEBB My Account. I'm not expecting you guys to follow along at this moment. I just want to show you guys a few examples. So we are going to try to get through a few examples here. I know we're getting close to the end of our webinar time, but please bear with me. If we go over a few minutes, we will make sure that we get all of your questions answered. All right, So here we are in our dashboard in SEBB My Account. As you can see on my screen here, I have 12 dependent verification requests waiting for me. I'm going to go ahead and move into my dependent verification. Reminder here, when we go to the dependent verification section, it is automatically selected to show only our pending requests. So when you guys are going in during first annual open enrollment, you will see all of the pending requests in here. Doesn't mean that you have to process anything, but just keep in mind if you want to look at who has been verified or denied, you can unselect this box and it will show you all of the dependent verification requests. So let's take a look at somebody who did not submit any documentation and what that process looks like. So we have Jimmy Jones here, added a married spouse, Heidi. In this case scenario, Jimmy brought his dependent verification to you as the benefits administrator. You looked at that document and you determined it was valid. So we're going to go ahead and click on verify. We're going to give it a verification status of verified. It was a valid document. Keep in mind the date auto-populates to the date, today's date that you're actually in SEBB My Account. And in this case scenario, Jimmy provided us with that tax return that showed both him and his married spouse. We go ahead and select that document type and we submit our changes. You'll see that Jimmy has removed from our screen, no longer pending dependent verification. So let's take a look at somebody who does have dependent verification. I hope you guys are enjoying my names. So we have the Great Gazoo here. You'll see that we have uploaded a tax return for our married spouse. When we click on this green picture here, it's actually going to show us what that documentation that's been submitted. So we check it over. You can zoom in on these and double check all of the information is correct. Keep in mind, this is just a sample. I know it says 2011. If you were to receive this, when you go in and do dependent verification and it said 2011, we would deny it. So we check the document, we double check that the names are matching, any other information that we've been provided. If it does match what's in SEBB My Account, we can go ahead and close out. And we can go ahead and either verify or deny. Now in this case, since I showed you guys it was a 2011, we know that's not a valid tax return. Let's go ahead and deny that one. It's invalid. And the document type was a tax return. Go ahead and submit. And we have that removed from our pending list. Now let's take a look at a state registered domestic partner. So you'll see here, Mr. George Clooney has uploaded his certification for a state registered domestic partnership and proof of residence, because we need both of those documentations. So here's our mortgage statement. Looks good to us. And here's our certification for our domestic partnership, state registered domestic partnership. All that looks great. We're going to go ahead and verify. And we have our certification of state registered partnership and residence proof. We'll go ahead and submit those changes. All right, so we talked about those disabled dependents and how they were also going to show up in your dependent verification. Here's an example. We have Jimmy Johns and James Johns is the dependent child. We check that date of birth. We see that the child is over the age of 26. We see there is dependent verification attached. Reminder, that's not something that you guys need to do. The SEBB program will do that dependent verification piece, as long as you can say that James Johns has been certified through your current SEBB organization's group medical plan, and that they are enrolled as of December 31st, we can go ahead and temporarily extend James's coverage to enroll in SEBB Medical starting January 1st, 2020. We'll submit those changes. Now, you'll say, why are they still on our list as pending? That's because you have done the attestation piece, but the SEBB program still does need to verify that dependent. So you will see them in your list as pending until the SEBB program goes in and completes that verification. There are also some reports that we can run. Keep in mind, I am in a training environment, as you guys all saw during your 2-day trainings. So the information may be a little bit funky, but if we go to the reports section in SEBB My Account, we have a few different reporting options, and we can look at dependent verification status. It's going to allow us to select a start date and end date. So for the fun of it, let's go to January of this year, and we'll go through the end of September. And we'll click on Run Report, and we can see a whole list of who's been verified or denied, what kind of documents they supplied, and what the relationship is. Again, you'll see that you can download this report into an Excel document, so you can save it on your computer if you would like to have at your hands. All right. The other thing that Jamie mentioned is if we have a subscriber who enters a disabled dependent, but they're under the age of 26, we can go in and change that for them. They can also go in and update that dependent to change them to an actual child, because we don't need to do the certification if they are under the age of 26. We would just verify them as a child. In order to do that, we would go into the subscriber. We'd search for our subscriber. Let's see. I think Mr. Gazoo had a disabled child. For those of you who didn't hear my stories out in training, I'm in Tumwater School District. That's where I went to high school. So we go into our employee, we manage that associated subscriber, and then we would go into the manage dependents section. We go and look at our, let's say little Gazoo was incorrectly labeled as a disabled dependent, and he may be a disabled dependent, but he's under the age of 26. I apologize, this was a female. She may have been labeled as a disabled dependent, but we know she's under the age of 26. We could go in here under relation to the subscriber and change that. So we'd want it to be a child. In the qualifying reason, if this was selected as disabled child, we know they're under the age of 26. We want to change that back to dependent, not disabled or extended. Again, you guys could do this as the benefit administrator, or the actual school employee could do this themselves. And this concludes what I have to go through in SEBB My Account. I am going to pass it back to Jamie. I hope you all got some valuable information out of this SEBB My Account portion. And back to Jamie.
Hello, everyone. Just going to slide back over to the presentation here really quick, and I'm actually going to take a look at some of the questions that came through during the presentation. So give me just a moment. Pulling these up. Okay, so bear with me. So one of the questions is, well, okay, so for some clarification, during the presentation I mentioned that starting November 16th, one of the eligible dependent types that SEBB organizations or yourselves as benefits administrators would be required to verify are Washington State registered domestic partners. Now, with that being said, you may receive documentation for registration or legal unions from out of state. You will not be determining whether or not those are valid and eligible dependents. You would send that information to us via outreach and training for those unions from other states. We would then determine, well, our legal team will determine whether or not it's considered substantially equivalent according to the RCW, and then they will go from there. And so another question to build on that is, would the outreach and training unit be contacting you as the BAs to actually physically go in and do the dependent verification in SEBB My account, or would we be doing that on our end? So that could go either way, and I'm not 100% sure on the answer for now, but we will check back on that later on. If we do have an answer available to us, we'll send that in to the person who requested that. All right, so I'm just reading through here. Lots of questions about whether or not the presentation is going to be emailed to you, and this webinar is actually being recorded, so you will have access to the recording. Know that the information and resources that's housed in this recording is available on the SEBB website under the Rules and Policies section, as well as the Eligible Dependents section. Hey, Amanda, they liked your names. Yay. Thanks, Robin. Okay, another question. If we deny, will the employee be notified that their dependent was denied and will not have coverage? So Amanda had mentioned during the SEBB My Account training that there is a section that states that letters will be mailed out. So there will be a notification going to employees once some kind of process has been completed regarding those dependents. So whether they're verified, denied, and then they may even have the reasons why on there. But keep in mind that that letter could take some time to get to them. Okay, another question is, how can you tell who has uploaded dependent verification versus those who haven't? And that may have been a question that kind of came a little bit in advance of Amanda's SEBB My Account training. But there is a queue where you can see pending dependents, and you would be able to select on them individually to see what has been uploaded. Can employees go back into their SEBB My account to see if their dependents were approved so they're not waiting for the letter? Absolutely. We really suggest that you all as benefits administrators and your employees be going into SEBB My account. You will be able to view whether or not a dependent is still pending or they've been approved or denied with reasons why. So they can definitely log back in to check that status. So I believe there's a question about the temporary extension for those currently certified disabled dependents. So just to clarify, if they are currently enrolled with the SEBB organization's health plan and they've been certified by that health plan as a disabled dependent, and you as the benefits administrators or whoever at your SEBB organization is able to verify that certification, then you can go in and temporarily extend that disabled dependent, and that extension will allow the dependent to be enrolled as long as they also supply that other dependent verification to connect the child to the subscriber. They would be contacted later in 2020 to recertify with the SEBB program. All right, let's see. Will the SEBB program verify dependents after November 16th? So starting November 16th, SEBB organizations are required to verify legal spouses, Washington State Registered Domestic Partners, and children up to the age of 26. The SEBB program will verify extended dependents and disabled dependents, and the SEBB program will determine whether or not those other unions from other states are substantially equivalent. Just one moment. So keep in mind that during the open enrollment period and through December, the SEBB program will continue to verify dependents that were uploaded during the first annual open enrollment period. However, with that being said, starting November 16th, benefits administrators should be logging into SEBB My account, and they should begin the process of verifying dependents as well. Okay, so a question about verifying disabled dependents if they've already been certified with the PEB program. So that was an exception we talked briefly about. If a dependent, any dependent has already been verified or certified by the PEB program, that information will be transported into SEBB My account, and those employees will not have to re-verify or recertify those dependents until their recertification period comes back up. So they still need to go into SEBB My account, make their health plan elections, and enroll their dependents if they choose to, but they will not have to provide dependent verification if they are coming from the PEB program with verified and certified dependents and enrolling in the SEBB program. All right, so we do need to go ahead and end the webinar, or else it's going to close on us. Any questions that we were not able to answer, we will go ahead and send you an email response. And we do want to thank you all for attending today and participating in the webinar. Know that there will be a recorded version. We're actually recording this right now that will be uploaded for your review, and for anybody who is unable to attend, they will be able to review it.
Thank you all for attending today.
All right, thank you guys. Enjoy your Wednesdays.